last night, my Brother Mubarak put out the article of Daily News on. So Trump mentioned that he's going to, uh, the U.S. is going to essentially own Gaza, right? They're going to own Gaza, and they're going to make way for new infrastructure and buildings and occasional homes for these rich millionaires, right? And so people have been up in arms, flabbergasted, right? Shocked. They spent time to go and, you know, we're very much anti Kamala Harris and Joe Biden because the initial, well, not the initial, but the most recent start of the genocide on a global, broader scale, right, was under the administration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, right? So naturally, we're anti them as Muslims, right? And some folks, for some reason, despite Trump being very clear prior to the election, prior to anything, that he he not only supports the Yahud, he's in leagues with them. We see Benjamin Netanyahu. We saw Trump. Trump was pull a chair for hold on, it says Trump pulled a chair for Benjamin Netanyahu. Uh, yeah. So anyway, I can't spell. Anyway, Trump. What the hell is his name? Trump cheer for Benjamin. Yeah. So as you see, listen, these folks are boys. Folks consider Benjamin Netanyahu to be freaking the antichrist of the jab, right? So he's one of the more egregious Yahudi Zionists, right? And so Trump and him are boys. I don't know why folks thought that a successful, rich, white billionaire would ever not be close with other rich white billionaires who kind of want the same thing. So this was of most parts to me. People spent the time to go vote into a campaign. There was even this uh, Muslim, I guess, imam or speaker or whatever he was. He went on stage and said, Muslims, we're backing Trump. Mubarak mentioned this yesterday, but if you at all spend any time um, learning about American politics and the American system, how it works, voting for either side is bad. Voting at all is bad for the first part, right? You aren't forced to vote. Um, you're voting under the guise of change. All they do is it's a cycle, right? It's a cycle that repeats itself over and over and over and over again, nonstop. There is these problems that may affect a minority group or someone just in general, right? And a politician, typically a Democrat, says, "Hey, we understand the problems that you face, that is currently being faced by your people and you, and we're going to work to stop that. So you vote for me, and we're going to put in policies in place, in theory, to prevent this from happening." All right. So women, for example, they are. I need to be able to have an abortion, and so the Democrats will implement in terms only something to, hey, you can have an abortion whenever you feel like it. The the right to decide to have a kid, my body, my choice, all that crap. But the Democrats push that forever, right? And when they're in charge, when the Democrats are in office, they never ratify things to the Constitution, never make things official, never make things just poo-poo, so that way you can say, hey, this issue is done. Roe v. Wade should be done. Brown versus the Board of Education should be done, right? This should be a clear-cut thing that is already complete, right? But because this is part of the system, right? The Democrats have to be on one side allegedly, and the Republicans have to be on the other side. Where it's a battle of two evils, but people view that as there's a good side and a bad side. You see it all the time with the supporters of Kamala Harris because she lost the election. It's how do you feel now about not voting for Kamala Harris or not voting for so and so, voting for Trump because Trump's going to do this and that. They're to Gaza and Palestine. Y'all were doing that already. It wasn't like they just all of a sudden just, hey, Trump's here now, we're gonna just start destroying Gaza. It happened under the watch of Kamala, and there are speeches. Well, it wouldn't be as bad. It was already bad. Tell it to the person that lost every member of their family, and it's just them. Anyway, so people are outraged by Trump's plan to basically fully flatten Gaza, push all the Palestinians out, and put them into a new location. Doesn't matter where, it just can't be there because Trump says, "Hey, this is our land. We own this, right?" So the reason for this video is people need to stop being shocked by things that happen because these things have already happened before. Since biblical times, people have fought over Jerusalem, over Palestine. Right? Musa told the Bnei Israel, "You go fight for the Holy Land, right, Jerusalem. You fight these giants off, all right. Allah will guarantee you victory. All right, you have to just go fight, right?" And they're like, "Yeah, these giants are huge. We're not doing this. All right, we're not going to go that far, all right." And history is important because if you study that, and biblical times, maybe there are folks who are like, "Oh, that didn't happen at all." There are folks who believe that like these prophets and these figures, this is all just make believe stories, and it's not true. But even if you don't believe in any religious scripture or text or book, you don't believe this to be the case, guess what did happen though? The Crusades happened. The Crusades wasn't a fable or a fallacy or someone invented it. It happened. The Crusades actually happened less than 1,000 years ago, right? The Crusades happened, right? And the events of the Crusades we see transpire today. So when Muslims are surprised or shocked about the ongoings of Palestine and why the surrounding Muslim world can't seem to just push out the Yahudi out of Palestine, if you look at the Crusades and the events that transpired during and post First Crusade, you understand that this is nothing new. All right. When the Crusades happened and Pope Urban and Peter the Hermit and all of them came to the Crusader lands and they came and saw it and conquered, it wasn't like Palestine or Jerusalem was conquered peacefully. It wasn't like the Muslims just laid down their arms and the Crusaders said, "Okay, cool, you're now under new management." It's not how it wasn't a kind and friendly takeover where we just changed ownership. No. When the Crusaders came to Jerusalem, right, they killed every man that they could find, right? The women were abused, right, raped. The kids' heads smashed against walls, stomped out, all right? They painted the city red with blood. That's what they did to Jerusalem. So if you think that what's happening in Palestine right now, Gaza, is shocking, it's really not shocking. This is what's going to happen. And what people don't seem to realize is that they're not trying to just have Palestine. They're not trying to just have Gaza. They're trying to expand their borders further and further, because when the Crusaders were done with their first Crusades, they had 4 states. All right, they had Tripoli, Antioch, Edessa, and Jerusalem, and they controlled these states for quite a while until eventually, under the leadership of Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, as everyone knows, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, Second Crusade won, and they fought off King Richard the Lionheart of England, and eventually they got control. But that was 88, 90 years later when this happened. So it wasn't a one-time thing. And we see parallels today. Folks see all the Muslim lands that are surrounding Palestine, and they're like, "Why aren't you guys helping these people do this, that, and third?" That's not how it works. That's not how the politics work with these countries. A lot of these countries are, unfortunately, they're paid for by the Yahudi. They're paid for by the United States as a whole to operate in mass, to not get involved. And if they do get involved, that spells the end of really them all. Because the Yahudi, the Israel, they have nuclear warheads. They have all the things that they shouldn't have, right? In a small state, they have. And so that's the current landscape of where we're at right now. So as you see time go forward, right, you're going to see it's going to be before the Muslims retake Palestine, it's going to be a long time. Muslims are very divided. When the Seljuk Turks, because they wrestled away control of Jerusalem from the Fatimids, right? The Fatimids were the first Shiite caliphate of Egypt, right? The first Shiite caliphate of Islam, just in general, right? Were the Fatimids, and the Fatimids were essentially allied with the Crusaders against the Seljuks. So I mean, you see Muslims not be together now. The Saudis aren't going to be allied with the Iranian states. It's not how it works. This is not how. There's so much like male and just like, you know, my kingdomship is more important to me than the overarching Muslim world. The Almoravids weren't coming to the aid of the Fatimids or the the subject Turks. That's just not how it works. And we see this is going to be an issue. Muslims, we're not united as a whole. So many things divide us, and that's really the whole purpose of really colonizing the whole world, like the whole European colonization and splitting apart the Ottomans was, hey, if we can get you Muslims to identify with your own nationality, right? These countries and this stuff, if we can divide you that much, all right, then we can have you basically on our side. It's the same thing that happens in India, right? In India, you'll see if you're Pakistani, you do not like Indians. If you're Indian, you don't like Pakistanis. If you're Indian, you don't like Bangladeshi. Like, but if you go back 100 years, they're all under the Indian umbrella. But if Europe can carve out a piece of land for you yourself, and you can say, hey, I'm now this, identify as this, then I no longer mess with these people at all. And when in reality, it's supposed to all be kind of united together, right? It's like me being from California and someone being from Florida. I don't like people from Florida. Why? You guys are both Americans. Well, they decided that they had this and that I had this, so I don't like it. It's very dumb. As Muslims, like, we need to be united, but this isn't the case. This is not how politics work. When kingships form, this is how things are going to go. And throughout the history of the Muslim world, since the time of the Umayyads and beyond, people, Muslim rulers and such, have acted in their own self-interest, and it's going to continue to happen. Their self-interest will always outweigh the typical good of the Muslims. Besides, like, a few khalifas here and there of Muslim lands, typically the Muslim rulers will act in their own interest of themselves, how they can make their lives easier, how can they can make their country bigger, right? It's not about the overall Muslim world. So don't get your hopes up for Muslim leaders to say we're gonna all come together as one. We're gonna reform a caliphate of North Africa, West Africa, and the Middle East, and I guess Turkey, right? And we're going to do this, that, and the third. It's not how it works nowadays. Too divided, and whenever someone has an idea, because you see this all the time in Africa as well too. Someone has an idea to unite. We're going to rebel against these Western powers. The Western powers do what they always do. They assassinate a current leader, place a figurehead in charge who's on their side, and that dispels any ideas that they may have going forward or currently of trying to overthrow the Western power. This is how it works. This is what the French did for so many years before North Africa revolted against the French. It worked flawlessly. It's actually shocking. But yeah, I hope that folks understand this. It's not a dang. If they just came together like that, Muslims would just take back control of Palestine and give the Palestinians back their home. Sadly, it's not how it works. Like, if Salahuddin al-Ayyubi doesn't, he has to infiltrate the Fatimid Caliphate on behalf of Nuruddin Zengi of the Zengids, just for this to be a thing, just for Salahuddin to infiltrate power, like, so much has to happen. And we're not, and that was 88 years. So for 88 years straight, the Crusaders, they own Jerusalem. And this is what we see now. The Yahudi, they own Palestine. They have control over it. They decide when folks get to enter and exit. They are bombing them nonstop, and nothing seems to be stopping them. So yeah, put your faith in Allah, and inshallah, it'll work out. That's all I have for today. Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar, wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-azim. Assalamu alaikum.